Hello, welcome to the Greenkill Gallery in Kingston, New York, live stream poetry. Tonight, our featured readers are Mike Jurkovic, yours truly, Guy Reed, and Cheryl A. Rice. We're going to begin with Mike Jurkovic. I've known Mike, well, as long as I've been doing poetry in the Hudson Valley, and that's a long time, and he's been doing it longer than that, but we won't get into years or age. He's a fantastic poet. Wide-ranging work, fantastic stuff. He's the host of Calling All Poets in New Paltz, New York, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to read for us tonight. Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Greenkill. Welcome, everybody out there. Let's just get into it with, we were all sitting around Zooming and live streaming, and it's like, okay, where's the best light? And where's the best angle? Well, I always found the angle at my house to be left of the green lampshade. It was funny grooming myself in isolation. Do I shave? Do I shower? Do I tuck in my shirt? Do I tilt the screen just left of the green lampshade for best effect? Do I mirror myself or go commando and let those of you on the other end of this wireless string see for yourselves if I hid the weed or drank all the wine? Okay, welcome. Here's the house. Did these days sneak up on you too because we all ignored the rear view warning that objects are closer than they seem? Are all the little anxieties from outside adapting like anything wishing a lifespan would make you anxious inside? Are you making your days fruitful, planting seeds, cleaning house, throwing out the old, whatever it was that bound us then, when now is all that matters? Totem America, all your landmarks, blue and gray, are falling. Totem America, nothing can save you. Totem America, your towers of corpses dark the sun. And when all else fails, Totem America, go stupid, indecent. Fuck your crass cousin, Totem America, your dark debris dead ahead. Your dismal tide breaks the beach. Your meds and mercy are fallow, Totem America, rapacious, repulsive, Totem America, bleeding out. This one was from Paris because we had gone to some museum and it was all about Picasso being on the beach, but he could never swim. So this is called Swimming with Picasso, but he never admitted it either. So this is called Swimming with Picasso. Swimming with Picasso was all fun and games until we both conceded we couldn't swim and everything reassembled. Arms, legs, nipples akimbo, elbows, eyebrows, monkfish cheeks, treble sevens, dancing deer, the bent dick of a zebra. Maya, Marie, Olga, Dora, all of them reclining. Jutting noses, rolling eye, ballerina mistress, the punishment of art. Shipwrecked cur that he was, he set the beach afire. Sirens scream, toddler dash. In his rampaging light, I unmoored his shoddy boat into the cursing tide, leaving him his brushes and the wreckage of the sea. While we were in Paris, Emily and I, we were with some friends, and you have that vision of that classic-looking Parisian, with the beret and the trench coat and a cigarette. And sure as hell, we saw one. And we were trailing him, the four of us, and this came from that. And it's called Passing Anna Riding in Spain. The old Marxist ponders Paris, and Notre Dame is burning. Hands clasped, beret askew, the world is changing, but not as he had hoped. The sky threatens, the land refuses to give. Good Friday falls upon St. Paul's, and gray is the river's countenance. From Pont Marie he studies, Passing Anna riding in Spain. The limestone villages of Malaga, they're whirled away from the heat of the fire. To absence, and she'd loose her hair. moved like Monet into twilight with eyes deeper than the Costa del Sol. Her breasts just breaking the surface, their limbs a unique coupling, warm Moroccan tea and churros. News from the front would filter, convincing them more and more of their need to return, but not today. No, and not tomorrow. The war is always, she still tells him. So, it's pandemic time, and you wonder what to do. So it is called Breaching Aristotle, month 4. So what new scab do I pick today to open up our discussion? Month 4 has been a drag, hasn't it? Staring at the bonobos, staring back, breaching Aristotle, bellicose and belligerent, and dragging the bygone with arthritic hands. A harsh percussion precedes all methods of inquiry, and I can't wait, to be honest, to hear all about it, but really not now. Not now. Today's put aside to hear Monk move and give us, in his own disturbed grace, the outside track on the inside joke, and how all of this came to be, for the most part, a world of our own incompetence, fools of the realm without benchmark, primate versus primate rising up the ranks. Guy mentioned that we've known each other, and I've known Cheryl for, let's not say a gazillion years, let's say 1,000,000 years. And this is something from an idea that he gave me, and it's called The Growing Moment. Books are no good in a box, he wrote, and of course they're not. Not mine, not his, not the ones everyone quotes and swears by, not the ones we steal from shelves or never return, not the ones unread and donated to other rooms that parallel and diverge, sell millions and mislead, the sequels that course correct. Books are no good in a box, and if I've learned anything, it's that it's never been a fair exchange. Never. It's just existence, a long awakening to struggle. The wise guy and the prophet say it all balances out, but it don't. Everyone dies, to be sure, but how? Hart's Island, Egyptian sands, alone in a bed without comfort, alone in a bed without love. Books are no good in a box, he wrote, on a page as square as this, whose words fall off the side into other books, other dreams that break containment, into other stories we tell ourselves to avoid other testimonies. Books are no good in a box, and so we seek pasture until the ending suspected isn't. And our multiple words amount to more than circus and haste, canard and impromptu kindness, the growing moment, the burgeoning nigh. It was 1877 or so when Freud and I began dissecting eels in Vienna, looking for gonads, ovaries, testicles, for anything hinting of gender. We compared notes, his Darwinian, beginning to prompt his mad descent into our behaviors. Mine were a wee more far-fetched, I thought, more pertinent still, touching upon the common need of species, which is heavy, I know, but we were big thinkers then with plenty of coke. So we brokered and bandied, barked and bet on theory to theorem. The girls, as women do when men talk, found other distractions. The gardens, the clothes, the shoes, and of course Freud took note. He took notes on goddamn everything, from mating violet coppers to the inside of eels, where they came from and why. With his talisman and lust, he could be a bore, but who couldn't? We each have attention spans shorter than the other, so we barter hand jobs and halos to get through the day, hoping our guilt won't find us. We were kids once, if you can believe that, given the shadows he later cast, but I was the wingman without fortune and fame, who couldn't get published to save his damn life. But I hold no grudge. No, we were boys probing eels, orifices, and odd humors, living, laughing, loving, drinking, smoking, broaching new thoughts, adding new questions, answering some. This one's called Gracie. For Gracie Allen, she was just amazing. There's a grammatical error up ahead that will change everything. How and why, I don't know, because off the top of my head, each mad essay must cast doubt on the one before, or at least lend a hand to its aberrant cause, which makes for unsure seasons, rising seas, and a lack of wonder. And I know you all have better places to be, like Dunking D or debtor's jail, so I'll try to get to what I'm getting at before I get to where I'm going, which was to talk about Gracie Allen, who knew today's postage stamp was yesterday's head of state, that a country of checks and balances relies on checks, and that you never place a comma where God has put a period. Here's hoping, as they lay me down, you gathered here do not turn on me and bewilder the bride with bullshit. You're gathered here because we danced without penance. We fused in a chord no army could read, called upon wise men for mercy, and we called upon women for love. This is called Somersault Backwards. On a farm in Bavaria after the war, I'll say not which to indict the dead, I was up, as they say, before sunrise and raced the moon to sleep. The work was labor, which cleared my head of the pother of past juries, and I could move freely now, though town was miles and miles away, and the fodder beats were cheap. In fits of post-humility, I begin to see how easily ideas braid into their rigorous flip, how ideals somersault backwards, and men can turn on a dime if anyone had one, and how many ways the world could go if only we wondered as one. The cows cooed, the chickens trilled, the horses grazed to the east. I'd walk to town for a lager of four and argue with road-shouldered men and pinch a frow where the shadows fell. In a workday rain, I'd return to the fields, refill the trough, haul the manure, all the time thinking how peaceful it was. No more mad orders, no vile convictions, no ignored cautions to confess. Just a patient farmer working his fields, watching the sun climb the sky. This one is obviously from this time, because a lot of people are not here anymore, whether they're artists or policemen or firemen or whatever they can, or nurses or teachers. And this is called Walking for Curbside Chinese. I beat Consuela's abutment on a whim, facing death. It was 8-foot piece of broken guardrail I found on 5th on one of those first afternoons after life went away while walking for Curbside Chinese. It was a year of containment from a disease that will lead to more. And as I gathered myself to carry it home to 16th and 9th and up 10 stairs, I saw the dichotomy, the empire before and after, the ballast of death, the unfixed life. I hammered her, burnished, tempered, and milled. On a day 8 of a shortness of breath, so I melted down my final assertion and added to the golden sprinkles. Beauty in a pile, I was gonna call it, but it seemed so priggish. Like it was me piled up all alone, a horizontal cockle, a vertical crease. Everyone hits Consuela's abutment sometime in their life. En masse, lone wolf, lost sheep, at war. Consuela was my hospice nurse who cooled me, gave me her breath, who showed me mercy without labor, and filled my weight with light. I'm going to close the my part of this evening out with two poems from the new book, American Mental. As soon as I can fidget it out here. And this one is called Topeka. I never did get back to Topeka. What was the point? There were pipe bombs in every direction. Just like here, up and down, forward and back, horizon to horizon, moon to moon. And grandma's down 8 fingers and falling into her chili and chips as Pop Pop swears a quick drawer, and little Lena gets off the bus and walks into the dim-lit, dim-wit, gimlet gin house that only the brave defy, which is why I'm here, hiding behind happy hour, my religion lost and my faith failing fast, each dark minute hauling itself forward towards the water, towards the morsel, towards the dead legends I call my own and number myself among. We jump off in droves, the chasm yawning, the darkness rushing by. Just grow soldiers, they say, reminding me a lot of what I heard back there in Topeka, where prairie winds blow rust and water mains burst just like that. And just like everywhere else neglected by its people, dismissed as a political problem, when in fact it's a cultural one, a question of folklore and lack thereof. No present, no past, no holds barred when it comes to demise and the dollars it makes, the squalor, the contempt, a breed I've indebted myself, a ruined lineage, just like Topeka. Thank you. And now, man, that was a quick little transition. And now, our next reader is Guy Reed. As he said, Guy and I have known each other for a million years, which really doesn't reflect well on our ages, but that's okay. I can't think of any better person to read with during these times than Guy. And Cheryl, welcome to the live stream here from Greenkill, and Guy Reed.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to hear Mike. He always takes you someplace you didn't know you could go. I'm going to read mainly from my new book tonight, but I'm going to read a few other things. I'm going to start with a poem from Until the Words Came, a book Cheryl and I put together last year. The conceit for the book was poems had to be about poetry readings, festivals, poets, writing. It's got well-known poets, less well-known, movie stars, festivals. It's got everything in there. And I've been trying to cut back on the long poems, but I'm actually going to start with a long poem right now. Revision. I took the devil out of my poem. He was clogging my voice box with decaying spiders. I took the devil out of my poem, but I left in the neck kissing and ear nibbling because it's angelic. I took the devil out of my poem because pus filled my eyes. I wanted talk of poems, though they make nothing happen. Every poem is a love poem. I was tired of talk about nothing. I took the devil out of my poem because we see death every day and can do nothing except waltz. Life 2-3, death 2-3. I took the devil out of my poem because those who die unjustly return with murder on their minds. I took the devil out of my poem because Vincent van Gogh died on a Tuesday. I took the devil out of my poem because he despises innocence, because he loves love, but he only loves with intent. I took the devil out of my poem because I hate the sound of grinding words against my teeth. He turns them to dust, along with my books, my fingers, my pens, and bricks of my convictions. I took the devil out of my poem because the God-fearing keep putting him back in there. There is no caesura the devil cannot fill with vanity and pride. I took the devil out of my poem because the suicides are enough to break the heart. I took the devil out of my poem because time is only as long as a cigarette. I took the devil out of my poem because 1,000 years from now, humans will be living like a millennium ago. I took the devil out of my poem because the road to my soul is paved with stones, dried leaves, and patches of snow. I took the devil out of my poem because irony is fun, but only if you are in on the joke. I took the devil out of my poem because I'd rather listen to Mozart than the news, because in the future all poems will be written in HTML code. I took the devil out of my poem because the future is underwater with patches of sand and plastic. I took the devil out of my poem because my conscience makes me want to do the right thing, though I often prefer to sleep, because simplicity is difficult. I took the devil out of my poem because the universe is riddled with dark matter, because truth and detail play hide and seek. I took the devil out of my poem because I fear the random gun burst in my chest, because I fear I will not have time to defend, explain, or say goodbye, because everyone's documentary is screening in their head. I took the devil out of my poem because spontaneous malfunction is built into the system, and the machine is a rolling stone. My new book, Second Innocence, Luchador Press, Jason Reberg, publisher, did a fantastic job. I have a lot of people to thank, really, for this. The Goat Hill Poets, Cheryl Rice, Rebecca Shimeda, also Juliet Patterson was very influential in helping me find the manuscript out of the poems. But I'm actually going to read a poem that didn't make the cut, because it gives you an idea of the subject matter. The line, I am not now an orphan, as some people say. I am not necessarily parentless, as others have called themselves, and I have said, I had parents. Our experience lives inside me. I do not yet know what to call myself, how to describe being a child whose parents are no longer living, other than next. Yeah, nice clothes. The afternoon I left his side to get paperwork done back at the apartment, I inexplicably took a sharp turn into the shopping center. I bought 4 button-down Oxfords, a nice pair of slacks, and a European cut blazer at a good price. What was I doing? Shopping for things I didn't need with money I didn't have in the middle of my dad's healthcare crisis. However, the next day, my father unexpectedly died. It was quite clear then why I needed nice clothes. There's no training for it. I'm thankful for the funeral director. Did that make me the producer? So many details to think of on the same day he died. No plan. Just trying to suss out the desires of someone no longer able to wish. I made it up as we went. Announcements, service, epitaph, programs, coffin, clothes. Shouldn't we depart the way we arrived? Somehow that doesn't feel appropriate. But why not? Puritanism? No. More a sense of vulnerability to the elements. His nephew suggested winter fishing gear. Red and black checked wool shirt, wool pants, and wool socks. But that seemed undignified, not to mention hot and itchy. My father was fastidious about his appearance. Haircut every 2 weeks, trim nails, shaved every day, including the day he died. He wore a suit and tie to the office 5 days a week. He undressed after work with the same care. That was the time for casual wear. I want him to be comfortable, and then I think it doesn't matter. But he would never think a funeral anything less than a formal occasion. He'd been retired 20 years, but his work clothes still hung in the closet. I picked out a black suit, a white shirt, blue and silver tie. Took the clothes to the dry cleaners. I dropped them off at the funeral home, clean and pressed. Wait, one more question. Socks and shoes? No, that feels wrong. The feet should be bare, in touch with the earth. The feet bare like the hands and the face, for what is more uniquely ours. Pardon me for a moment. out of practice. That's what happens. Euphoria in Ohio. Driving home to New York from the headwaters of the Mississippi after my father's funeral. I've spent 3 weeks handling his life and after it. I'm in his car with the last of his stuff. It's raining like hissing, screeching yows and guttural frothing roughs. For miles and hours in this deluge, I'm behind an F-350 truck pulling a long, empty trailer. It's nearly all I can see. I'm following his lead at 75 miles per hour. I'm playing country music and we're passing everybody. It was overcast, fog, when I left Minnesota yesterday. The same through Wisconsin. Nightfall through Illinois. It's been raining since I woke up in Indiana. Now, somewhere in the middle of Ohio, in the middle of the day, the rain breaks. The road is high on a plateau, high for Ohio, and overhead the darkest cloud I've ever seen, like the sky was turned off. Oak leaves float by like damaged butterflies. I've made this drive 12 times, and nothing looks familiar. I sit up straight. Suddenly, I find myself happy to be here, right here in Ohio. I don't know why. My father is dead. The sky is ominous, and the music is about dying young in prison. My friend, the F-350, has slowed slightly. I pull out, pass him on the left. He pulls in behind me. Now I'm going to take us through the rest of this storm, the rest of this state, and the next, all the way to the Atlantic and the end of life if I have to. I feel that good. Of that, I am confident. So, close to 2/3 of the subject matter in this book is the death of the speaker's parents. And the rest is more about the speaker being a parent, life, but also there's some ekphrastic poems in here and poems about art, which were really meant to be more like a caesura for the book, a resting place from some of the death, as well for other reasons that you have to read to find out. This poem was built on the principle of the negative, what something is not. Seeing the starry night. This is not a fake, nor a smooth print which dazzles with enhancement, reproduction of size. It is perhaps the 1,000th time I've seen this image, but it's not on a calendar, coffee mug, t-shirt, key fob, pillowcase, nor a color plate in a fine book. No. I turned the corner in the museum not knowing what to expect after the Bernard show, but I do not expect to come face to face with the starry night. I am at the Museum of Modern Art for the first time, and there are famous works of art. Could I have not foreseen this? This is not a starry night, but it is the starry night. No, I cannot look. Quickly, I turn away before I see too much. I am not prepared for its existence after all these years. I run to another part of the museum, look at the floor. This is different. Yes, I know its face well, but not the energy of the actual. Texture of paint and brushstroke, a naked object on the wall. How many millions have stood there? How many billions have not? I will return, stand, and not fidget. I will breathe and I will be awed. No. I do not know yet what I will be. It might disappoint severely. What moved past the cypresses of St. Remy that night, I cannot know. Vincent van Gogh stood before a blank canvas. I stepped toward the unknown. Skylights. On a walkway over the bustle, she glimmered in the light of the airport atrium, wearing a long overcoat open to a white blouse and tan slacks. She had a look of 1959 lipstick and coiffed hair, but still looked like I knew her in 2010, only aglow, like a silver nitrate Monet. "Mom," I called, and she smiled, meeting my eyes. I had not seen her since she passed from this world. My insides were floating, seeing her healthy and happy to be traveling. I knew she played piano and loved to sing. I fumbled with luggage, not sure whose. We hugged, I recalled later, or simply a hope, to give my young, not yet a mother, a fond greeting before she sets out to fly toward her future, where she becomes a nurse, meets her husband, where I will then come into being, and farewells will be afterthoughts with no finality. My Savior. I had lain perfectly still in the dark bedroom, convinced if I moved even one toe, God would instantly strike me dead. I had just begun kindergarten. Mother's footsteps came near enough to call out, not too loudly lest I make a movement and disturb God's unwavering mind and eye. Light cut in from the hall as she entered. "No, honey, God would never do that, especially to a good boy like you," she cooed, as if I were her baby bird, coaxed to its first leap of faith, raised a finger, then moved a hand. I continued to breathe, shook my sleep-leaden legs, and my heart still beat. Escaping the all-seeing, all-knowing great pain of death, unscathed, a shudder of tears released. I knew my mother backed God down to save me in my footed pajamas. Through childhood tribulations to follow, all the years of my father's angry rants and punishments, she had my back. She became the New Testament. Two more from the book, and I'm going to read a couple of new ones. Astonishment. Only we can burn our own hearts at the proper temperature, a requirement of transgressions against our individual consciousness. Yet, it is human nature to act against our will, our iron discipline, our firm personal beliefs, even when we know. There is a weakness not composed of character, but built into the flesh that desires sensation when face to face with aging and death. And this book ends with a prayer. Prayer. I leave the now sleeping revelers and walk alone into fields under the first spires of light. I fall to my knees, hidden by prairie grasses and wildflowers wet with dew, liquids flowing from my face. I am bawling so hard the spiders hide in their glistening webs. I apologize to open sky, witness of every breath. Having so much love for everything that dares to sweetly unfold its heart, I am choking and must pour it out into my homeland. I am thankful to be here among my tribe, but I cannot give enough to feel worthy of my blessings. I am not ready to die. I want to explode, a star of pure light, sear even the souls of stones with this love, then no longer be a me, but a forgotten piece of morning instead, melting into the golden August earth like a voice clear in a ripple of water. This is available, find bookstores everywhere. You can go to GuyEdwinReed.com and find out more information. Thank you out there for listening. Thanks for everybody who's tuned in. It's really great. I miss your energy, though. We're all very happy to be here reading for you, but we do miss your energy and hope some of this is translating to you. By now, I'm sure we've all done Zoom many times, which is great. We couldn't have a pandemic until we actually had the technology in order to stay in contact and work from home. But it's not always so great. Zoom existence. I am speaking on a late-night digital video show from the middle of somewhere only I know. I see people, large as thumbnails, hear them broadcasting from their own nowhere I know. Same, we're all echoes. Who is the silent person on the wall with the spider finger and toe tips? They listen. How the human voice sounds in a room, disembodied in the presence of oneself speaking at a screen. The blue ocean of light flickers in the eyes of the empty. I'm never quite sure I exist when I'm on Zoom, actually, is where that poem came from. But we're on YouTube, so you don't have to worry about it. This is a very short poem, shorter than haiku. Living naked. Some thistles still remain from that old sin. I could read that one twice. Living naked. Some thistles still remain from that old sin. I don't know. I'm going to end with this. Thank you again. I'm looking forward to hearing Cheryl. Amazing. Wonderful to read with Michael. David, Greenkill Gallery. Thank you. The Veil. I've spent my days trying to get closer to you, my love. Frustrations of separation pulse in me. The spark behind the life force remains unknowable. Like the morning glories thick with splendor late in the season, I only touch and gaze upon the skin of their beauty. Their lifeblood courses from underground, chemical origin up through lattice work to bloom into unfolding creation, toward the light. To travel my own routes, the spectrum of aura, light branching somewhere out in there, all that is, maybe a place or an experience, a seed of soul, to feel a connection to you past the sheen of presence, close hum of the secret furnace. These days pass with more white than red in my beard. I have gotten no closer. You go on, as will I, until outside time, beyond surface, we synthesize, glow. Thank you.
Guy Reed, everyone. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for checking in with us. One of the beautiful things about Hudson Valley Poetry is really all the undeniably distinct voices. And we've all had the beautiful experience of experiencing each other, mostly when we were live, but now we're doing it through Zoom and live streams. But one of the most distinctive voices of the Hudson Valley, she and I have a bizarre kind of origin story, started on a postcard, Cheryl Rice.
I still have that postcard. It's awesome. Yeah, Mike found me doing an open mic at another gallery, and Dear Miss Rice, that's how he addressed me instead of my usual title. I'm happy to be here as well. I wanted to remind people you can find me at Flying Monkey Productions at blogspot.com. And my email is cheryl.a.rice.02@gmail. And I'm going to leave this right here. It might end up on camera. It might not. That's okay. And Jason Ryberg kindly published a book of mine earlier this year, just in time to be quarantined along with myself. It's called Love's Compass, and it's under the Kung Fu Treachery Press imprint. And I have copies if you want to reach out to me. It's also on Amazon, I believe, but however you'd like to look at it. I'm going to read all new things, however. So you'll have to put your hands on a copy of the book to see that stuff. And I think I want to start with my the bio you probably saw on the announcement for this event. And it's called The Wages of Moonlight. That title came from Patti Smith. I first saw myself around the age of 4. We lived in the first floor of a house in Wyandanch. There was a broken down pavilion in the yard that we were warned to stay away from. I drank the last drops of soda syrup from bottles waiting by the back door to be returned. I am compelled to recall the past in fits and starts. Like those drips of soda syrup, the past returns with some effort and a little welcome. The artist who comes back to me again and again these days is Anna Held. A brief flash in the early 1900s, her star was polished by Ziegfeld, but she was the one who shone. A powerful Jewish refugee who adopted the persona of a Parisian coquette, she died at 46 of a rare blood disorder we still have no cure for. I am supported by those ancient stars, paid to excess by the moon and her fickle appearances. Support comes first from within. If there is any applause, enjoy it for what it is, the current phase of consent. In the last few months, convention as we know it has been upended. I long to return to that broken down pavilion of the past, stepping carefully around floorboards that will bear no weight. I long for the trumpet vines and moonflowers that surely by now have created the only roof it ever needed. I long for the sweetness of soda syrup dappled with impurities from bottles beside the tin milk box. I long for the milkman and his shiny white slacks. Upon waking, I immediately miss the moon, no matter her demeanor of the night before. I rush to the bathroom and am not ashamed of it. Any who pretend otherwise are invoking a false narrative. Art is a sign of society. Without it, we are beasts, tearing our masks off in a crowded Walmart, lengthening the stay of immoral diseases by kisses of black dust. The act of creation offers me clarity, not intoxication. I am reassured that I am still connected to the segment of humanity that has both feet in the dirt and eyes in the stars. Woodpecker, from my friend Will. Head already resembling blunt force trauma, wings tucked at sides like an undertaker's jacket. A woodpecker lays dead on a bed of last year's leaves, both victims of time's carnage, both soon to repopulate the soil's university. Small sprigs, timid shoots of future seasons. Eggshells coming to harden in a mother's body. Here lies a father, a husband born to knock the spirits out of a maple or oak, eyes blinded in death by the very insect tribes wounded by his primitive appetite. Blue beak, still, silent, amid the roar of progress. And here's one I wrote, inspired by a poem of Guy Reed's. It's called Peacock. A peacock dead on the sidewalk, but from where? They can't fly. They aren't native to Northwest cities like this. They are happier in India, Florida, somewhere that's warm. The body, blue, already begins to fade, electric life drained away. Carnival tail lies limp, folded like a dancer's fan, its thousand eyes shut forever. Dull bag of jewels freshly unmasked. Who left you here, so far from your eggshell crypt of birth? Did you run from the circus? Cruel master forcing feathers to spread 3 shows a day, whether or not you were aroused for such a pageant? Did you escape a zoo's barren landscape, stiff plastic plants for shade, muddy water in place of the sparkling Ganges? Did you fall off a trash wagon, cruel funeral buyer, no interest in even your 1,000 eyes as your freedom's ransom? A suicide, perhaps, leaping from the 13th floor, atrophied wings flapping at the last, ancient flick of instinct outliving anatomy. Such questions can last all night around a warm fire, cocoa and marshmallows, idle contemplation. The question is your question, your blue spacesuit, the one that's been abandoned. It's never a single straight line from birth to death, despite plans we hatch, thinking it's progress to cross an ocean, take the bait, spread our colors like a Ferris wheel, ride the new direction as if any thought was new, as if there couldn't be a sidewalk waiting for any one of us somewhere, waiting for us to press our cold blue cheek against it, our bodies sacks of what we'd been, makeup fading in a light expected rain. Mask, which I really resisted honoring this pandemic by commemorating it in poems, but you have to write about what's going on. That's a poet's job. Rita Dove said poets are witnesses, and that's the best excuse I've found so far. Mask. Cowboy, ninja, terrorist, you can play any role you like in your fashion mask of choice. The interwebs are flooded with ads, your favorite band, TV show, cartoon persona, quickly printed on a nylon sling contoured to enclose your jaw, your mouth, the all-important nose, source of all knowledge of this vine-ripened disease. I hesitate to commemorate the trend. Don't think of it as fashion, but a horror show with no finale. A necessary evil like soap or daylight. The calendar and my inked-in plans mocks me from a desk I may never see again. I hover over a laptop, perform a mockery of my former tasks, wear a mask myself of despair, confusion, pause. I was getting a little stir-crazy myself, even though my roommate and I make a point of going on extended drives and just trying to get out of the house. It's pretty safe in the Hudson Valley if you avoid everybody else. But I was thinking about a road trip. I was longing for a road trip. And it's kind of hard to find any road trips that feature women, so I may be working on that part in the future. But for now, I came up with this. It's called On the Road with Kuan Yin. I was anxious to make my own adventure, no more backseat driving for Jack and Neil, riding shotgun with Hunter and his Samoan council. Kuan Yin was ready to give it a go, but right away we disagreed. She wanted to bring the dragons, ride on a cloud, balance that vessel of tears in her lap the whole way. I gave in on the dragons if she could prove they were housebroken, but as far as a vehicle, I was too in love with my Rogue. Its sleek, black toughness, the first car I could really sink my teeth into to leave it behind. I had to sign up for AAA since her legal name, Avolikatsvara, was too long for the form. It was all on me to gas up, map out the route, screw GPS or reservations. We could sleep in the Rogue if need be, dragons at our feet, billowing whites of Kwan's robes for our blankets, stars for alarm clock. Women don't often get a chance like this, ripening the world's sorrows as we do in our fruit wombs, then casting them out on humanity's doorstep, like some orphan we'd never seen. We are designed for that and for the orphan, bloody and unsanitary, occasional reality check between Netflix seasons, unpredictable now as pandemics, weather, twofers at the local pub. Did you hear that? Cried Kwan at every intersection. She heard everything. I just turned the Sirius up louder, behind on my podcasts, waiting for the edge of Allentown and a frozen margarita I used to know. Kuan Yin had quit drinking years before, aspiring to natural highs. She'd given up jeans, makeup, red meat. In truth, she was the perfect companion for a trip like this. Being a goddess, all the bathroom breaks were my call. A six-pack of Snapple got us from border to border. She'd tamed the lions, and as it turned out, they were no more trouble than a couple of Dobermans and a lot less work to clean up after. We stopped for a bite outside of Chicago. I ordered apple pie a la mode with ice cream to test the sustaining effects of fruit and dairy. Kwan sipped on a moon, balanced her vessel between her knees, glanced back at the Rogue every now and then to see how the dragons were getting on. It's all right, I promised. We'll bring them a sandwich to split. She said nothing, but I could tell by her downcast countenance that she was unhappy. She was always unhappy when we had to leave the dragons behind. We made our way past the skeletal remains of the industrial Northeast, leapt the Mississippi easily with the wind at our backs, and the Great Plains opened before us like some golden ball field, without lines or basis, but an obvious implication that here was a place for weary conformists to try out their dance steps. Quan and I got out to see how far we could see. The dragons stretched their wings, darted in low circles in the wheat. Horizon flatter, further than either of us could have imagined. I popped open the last Snapple, put out my cigarette in the lid because I was a lady, because no one in decent literature goes on a road trip without a pack of smokes, even if they've never smoked in their lives. Kuan Yin declined both, gazed out at the vastness of the prairie as if she'd come home. I felt the same. There was a welcoming air to all this emptiness that ground the dead skin from even the most hardened of hearts, mine, and lifted the most compassionate, hers, out of their carousel routines. That's all I'd wanted, a little air, another shade of light. We headed back the way we came, a wee bit south, rode the steel arch of Missouri to the crest, a bit less impressive after the buffalo mating grounds. But we gave humankind the oohs and ahs it craved. The Sears Tower waved as hanky as we went by, but we refused to acknowledge the obvious joke, both the store and worldwide status lost in the race to build bigger, better billboard empires. We parted ways in Newark. Kuan Yin had friends she wanted to catch up with who owned a Guatemalan restaurant next to the Prudential Center. The dragons cried a little as they rolled out, and Kuan Yin kissed me goodbye in a way I didn't think was part of our vocabulary, but had apparently been added when I wasn't looking. She managed to keep most of the tears intact, the vessel as it was not having a proper lid. I drove the last leg alone, windows down despite the heat, just over the speed limit because I was proud of my obedience to signs and my low car insurance. I'd turned off the radio miles before, preferring instead the rush of movement bending the corners of my nearly useless ears, letting my hair tangle into impossible ropes it would take days to repair. But I paid no mind. I'd seen the road and the road had seen me, and we were both, for the moment, satisfied. I like to tease people by cutting out poems I thought I was going to read, but I guess you'll have to come to another reading once the world starts turning again. Dreams. My body, a muddle of joints succumbing to a soft routine, spreads across blooming consciousness of quarantine. Time still has a shape, shadow, defined by sunlight, firecrackers, a few good souls out to break our solitude with guest star visits in my dreams. There is still a 9 to 5 for me, a rarity in these pandemic hours. I perform my usual tasks, calls, goodwills, spreadsheets with no assurance those tasks will keep me employed. My taste for crafts dulled, yarn in the basement remains neatly skeined, needled projects hang threadless, folded roughly, shoved behind the curtains. Alcove in that olden times held a Murphy bed, times before me, when a probable wood stove gave all the heat or light a body could bear. Whatever curve there was in me flattens faster than a mapped disease. Don't look to me for answers, my Jurassic lover. These times remind me of how little I control, how much our daily bread depends on progress, how soon the winds of wheat might scatter all we have claimed as ours. I sleep the slumber tonight of the otherwise occupied, consumed with afterlife comforts of my dearly departed, kinder in death and dark than in their days on earth. And of course, these times start you thinking about the empty routines we had as children, in elementary school. I was just post-Cold War, and I know a lot of my friends around the same age. I'm 58 and a half. Remember similar instances. This is called drill. Out of nowhere, the alarm would sound, and the teacher would direct us to line up quietly, impossible after that bell, and lead us to the playground, our assigned spot. They would chat while we stood wondering if this was the real fire we'd been practicing for, reassured by laughter and whispers of the grown-ups that real flames had passed us by again. Then there was the drill where we'd crouch down under our desks, fingers laced together and behind our heads, Cold War holdover lingering in the suburbs, cinder block walls, no match for nuclear aggressors, but now I hear radiation might not have so easily penetrated that cement, that we might have survived a New York Nagasaki, rebuilt from the remains of that colonial island, Smithtown's bull leading the charge. No rice, no steamed alliance of seaweed or three-eyed fish for us, but Chef Boyardee to take us home. There were no gunmen among us in those days, or if there were, they kept their weapons to themselves, saving their ammo for squirrels. There were no door jams, blackout shades, no frightened students huddled in the supply closet, the danger rehearsals aping the evening news. A teacher I know split her lunch with her students, so long was their lockdown. A bit of granola, peanut butter on whole wheat. My grade school lunches were on white bread, Twinkie when we were flush, apples when not. White bread would have served that class well, pure manna from forgotten heaven in the deepest of horrors, from a time when disasters, natural and man-made, would not have lingered so long, would not have taken us out in a single scream, not a whisper, whisper, whisper. Couple more, and I thank you too for tuning in. It's weird to read to yourself. I do it all the time at home, but it's also great to think about the ability of a live stream to reach folks that might never make it to a live reading, or places where I might never make it to read. So let me know in the comments, like they say on YouTube. Let me know if you heard us tonight and what you thought, what you didn't think, what we can do better. Fiji, and somebody who heard this poem in a Zoom wasn't sure if it was F-I-J-I or F-E-E-J-E-E, and it's the second one, because I think that's the cooler spelling. The world is a lot smaller than I suspected. Even after 12 hours in the Philly airport, I knew the place from end to end like the back of my hand. There is nowhere these days where our own modern plague hasn't reached. Fiji, birthplace of the famous merman tribe, even has a few tired lungs to account for, days of South Seas bliss on pause. And the quarantine we read about in the novels of Dickens, Victorian bedclothes hosting battles in the land of counterpane, gentle mother in her mob cap bringing beef tea and milk punch is nothing like our daily restrictions. Most well, some working from home. Our computers, like our bodies, adapt readily to work or play. Movies we stream on the brook of electric vaudeville, we invite each night onto our TV stages, become our only option. Theaters shuttered, homey Zoom sing-along standing in for ensemble productions. And with the relative silence, school buses dead in their lot, birds believe they've reclaimed the neighborhood, chant their sensual litany louder, faster, over and over. Ambulances, fire sirens seem more frequent, but it's just unpolluted air carrying their tragic notices without distraction. I resent recording impressions of these days, knowing how brisk competition will be, fundraisers, anthologies. I have my private vision of Earth as a ragged ball, no ballast, falling from its ancient rotation, gravity suddenly a factor, into the black so oceans can't be sorted from shadows. I feel the pain of 100 years from now, when these few months become a footnote, when we remove our masks to reveal again our naked selves, untrimmed, unclean, ready for nothing. And I have a final one, and I want to thank Mike. And, oh, I only have half of this final poem, so I'm going to skip it. I'm going to read something from the new book. Don't forget, flyingmonkeyproductions.blogspot.com, where you can see me pontificate about any poetry subject you never wanted to hear about. So because I screwed up that last poem, which would have been so awesome, I'll post that on my blog to make up for it. Here we go. I wrote this for Donald Lev, who passed away not so long ago, but was a major force in Hudson Valley and New York City and United States poetry for many, many years, publisher of Home Planet News. It's so lucky to know him and to hear him and watch his mind just bloom. Only in the 20 years or so I knew him. So this is called You Could See, for Donald Lev. As he leaned into the blade of time, you could see how he whittled himself down to bone and word, how his poems became ninja stars, tender, perfect points. You could see year after year as clothes slid from his body, his belt tightened, loose ends dangling like sash of a Zen master's robes, how his 2 legs became 3, the newest of hobbled wood. You could see brain and body parting ways, reluctant divorce, but still the blade, burnished words shining in our ears. We had no right to beg for more. Tsunami of poems trickled to a thin stream of blood, our hands left full of evaporated skin. Brooklyn Dodgers, a tulip, a full cup to toast, the man who beat back the blade. Thanks.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Guy. A special thank you to Dave Schell here at Greenkill for letting this happen and for doing all this beautiful production work. One thing I did forget to mention at the very beginning is that Cheryl, Guy, and I all have 3 new books from Lucador Press. And thank you all for listening. We will be back. Just watch. This is from Greenkill Gallery in Kingston. Special hand again for Guy and Cheryl and David. And see you soon. Thanks, everybody, for watching.